So as we continue our discussion about listening, chapter 3 goes into quite a bit of information about the types of listening and listening for interpretation. So, chapter 3, the PowerPoint will explore the different types of listening and how we can incorporate these types of listening skills in public speaking processes as either the sender or the receiver of a message. So, first, my students always ask me, well, Dr. McQuitty, what is the difference between hearing a message and actually listening to a message? And so, if we look at how those are two terms are defined, we see that hearing refers to the vibration of sound waves on the eardrums, versus listening is paying close attention to what we hear. So, a lot of times I can be talking to my children, my husband, and they'll say, "Okay, mom," or "Okay, Deanna, I hear you." And then oftentimes I will say, "Are you hearing me or are you really listening to me?" So we see that those are two distinct processes of really knowing and listening to what the speaker is saying. Hearing refers to the anatomical and structural medical terminology, and listening requires more of an of subjective and intentional ability to listen to the speaker. There are four types of listening, which include appreciative, empathetic, comprehensive, and critical. So let's explore appreciative first. We know that there are different purposes of public speeches, and just the same, there are different purposes for listening. Appreciative listening refers to listening for pleasure or enjoyment. So, here, this type of listening may be in a movie that we watch. We may listen depending on who we talk to, our spouses, or our girlfriend or boyfriend. Appreciative listening is one type. Empathetic listening refers to listening to provide emotional support for a speaker. So, here, empathetic listening may be utilized in different types of career dispositions, such as counseling, social work, psychiatry, sociology, psychology, empathetic listening, listening to understand and provide emotional support for the speaker. Thirdly, comprehensive listening refers to listening to understand the speaker's message. So, as you could imagine, comprehensive listening is more of the formal listening type that's usually employed with more formal types of public speaking engagements. And then we have critical listening, listening to evaluate a message to accept it or reject it. Critical listening could be an example of during the election, deciding on who you're going to vote for. Critical listening can also be persuasive speeches. So there are very different ways that we can employ critical listening skills. So we talk about the importance of listening to a speaker versus just hearing the speaker. And so, what could be some reasons or causes for poor listening? They could be things such as not concentrating, you're listening too hard, jumping to conclusions, focusing on delivery and a person's personal appearance versus what they're actually saying. So, just pause and think about a moment to maybe where you were employing poor listening skills when someone was speaking to you. Can you say that some of these were examples of why you were demonstrating poor listening skills? Take a moment to reflect. So, once we recognize the causes of poor listening skills, there are some principles and guidelines that we can use in order to become better listeners. The first concept is called spare brain time. And this is the difference between the rate of talk, which is about 120 to 150 words a minute, and the rate at which the brain processes language, which is 400 to 800 words a minute. So, as you can see, there's a big discrepancy between how fast we talk versus the rate at which the brain processes actual language. So, then what can we do as individuals that are going to be going through this class, listening to public speeches, being exposed to different type of public speaking engagements? You're going to have to speak no matter what your career field is. It's going to cause you to think about the public speaking process, as well as listening to others speak. So what kinds of things can you begin to do early on in this course to become a better listener? We can take listening seriously. We can be active listeners. We can resist distractions. We don't be diverted by the person's appearance or the delivery style. Then we can suspend judgment, develop good note-taking skills, which we will talk about as the semester progresses in this course. And then, most importantly, we can focus our listening. Really key component of what I just said. We can focus our listening. What does focus listening entail? That means that we can begin to listen for main points. We can begin to listen for evidence, and we can begin to listen for technique. And so, chapter 4 will provide us with an introduction to these concepts.